So for the Triumph, some bits have arrived. So I've got an in-tank fuel pump. This is the same part that's from Triumph, but it's half the price. So this is about £20 for an in-tank fuel filter. It's exactly the same as the one that's on the bike, except it's just got Marl written on and not Triumph. And then for the hoses, I've decided to go for a full length of in-tank fuel hose. So you have to get the ones that are rated for in-tank. If you get normal fuel hose, it's only designed to have fuel on the inside. The short sections of hose that you can buy individually, so there's 3 in that tank, they're about £5 each, plus whatever postage you might pay. So this is a little bit more cost effective, and the size is 8mm internal and 13 on the outside. Just wanted to add on to this, so there's a specification here. So we've got NBR rubber, minus 40 degrees C, plus 90 degrees C, operating pressure 8 bar, burst pressure 30 bar, bloody hell. Yeah, and then it says obviously designed for use in tank, but hopefully you can get it from this picture. There's no part number, unfortunately, I can give you, but if you look up that name, you might be able to find this hose. If not, I'm happy to send you a bag, whatever it costs in postage, and it's E10 rated as well, which is ideal. So you can see these contacts, they're very bad. They're like from here to here, the contact's so poor. So that's the fuel pump assembly redone. So new fuel line, filter. I've had to clean these connectors up. They were all pretty bad, so I've cleaned them up with sort of like a carb cleaner concentrate. And there's a filter on the end of the fuel pump, this thing. So I've got a new one of them. And then, so this is ready to go back in the tank. So I thought I'd just check one more time just to make sure the pump works. Sounds nice. So that's it, really, ready to go. This can go back in the tank, and then I'm just going to connect it up to some power, and then I can test on the outlet. I'm hoping that I can use a tester to test the pressure, just to make sure it all works before I go up to the guy's house and fit it. So I've got this basic fuel pressure testing set up, but these tend to be sort of designed so that you can only connect it like onto a line. So imagine that was the fuel line, it would just basically tee into it, so it doesn't actually allow for a test, you know, straight off the pump basically. So I might have to figure out a way of doing that, maybe block up the hole or something. So to test this fuel pump, I've got the fuel pressure tester attached, and normally on the bike you'd have this end connected to, you know, your fuel rail, but for the purpose of testing I've just capped it off. So I'm just going to power the pump up, hopefully the pipe holds. So we should be running there at about 45 psi. So it's running, holding pressure. So that looks good. Pump sounds nice and healthy. Right, we're back on it with this fuel tank. So got the tank mounted. making some noises, which is promising. So we'll just see if it'll start. I'll pull the clutch in. Let's just check. Got everything connected up. Doesn't sound like it's running on both cylinders at the moment. Yeah. This side's cold. So, yeah, getting heat in that side. Oh, we'll try some choke on it. And we'll check for vacuum leaks. Could be one over there. Vacuum lines there, so still on one cylinder. Yeah. Let's check we've got the wire. Engine warning light. There's an engine warning light, so I'll have to plug in and find out what that means. I'll get some heat now actually, I think. Slowly. A little bit of heat. I'll let it warm up a little bit, but I think this cylinder and I'll plug in to see what that engine warning light's all about. Heater 1 is off, heater 2 is on. The fault is the O2 sensor. Not sure which one number 1 would be. I would imagine it would be the left cylinder. Heater 2 is on, probably because it's not firing that cylinder. Let's see if we can do anything with it. It's not able to run very well. Yeah, the fault with the O2 sensor. I think this fuel injector on this side must be faulty because there's not much warmth coming out. But then again, it could be a spark plug. So make a decision. Do you take the fuel injector out or do you take the spark plug out? Given the state of the fuel tank, I think we've got to look at that fuel injector first. Okay, so I've just spoke to the customer and we can go ahead and diagnose this issue. He said that all the time that he's had it, the engine management light's always been on. So there's a chance that the O2 sensor's been faulty for a long time. So I'm going to get this cover off and see if I can pull out the injector. I'm not entirely sure how these are fitted because I've only worked on the later ones really, that have got a fuel rail visible. This is actually inside a car body to make it look like an old bike. Okay, so under that cover you've got a connector here. Unplug that. loop it around the side, and then the cover comes off. And then there's another screw there, the back. I'm going to try and take this off, but from the look of it, it doesn't look like you can remove this without taking the centre channel. Maybe you have to get the other one off and separate them a little bit. Right, I'm just making this up as I go really. So you can separate the two carbs. There's the choke mechanism, which I've took the screw out of. The throttle plate is just like one of those that feeds into itself, and then you've got two bolts that support and locate the two throttle bodies. So as long as I can get that little wedge into its original position, then this should go back together. And I've got both the tops off the fuel rail now, so there's not a lot of room really, but I'm trying to basically separate the two ends of the fuel rail. So I think this piece here, the main pipe, fits into there, so I need to pull this little 90-degree bend out, and then that can slide back, and then you can get the injector out. So in order to get the fuel injector loose, I've had to move the manifold off, took the air boot off, separate the choke as well. So this should come off now, and I'm hoping that I can just connect it up in some way to test it. So if I can connect it up like that, perhaps that would be good, and then I can just shoot it into somewhere. Right, so I've got that set up like that. It's not directly into the cylinders, which should be alright just to start it. Just to see it inject basically, or not inject. Oh. Okay, so I might have to hold that because the fuel has pushed it off, obviously. That was obvious. So I'm going to have to hold that down, turn the key on, and then start it, or crank it at least. But I might just disable the ignition for testing purposes. Right, this is going to be quite tricky to film, so I'm going to hold there. I've unplugged the coil. I'm going to press the start button. Oh, we're leaking a little bit. Might have to take my word for it, but I'm going to crank it. That injector is not injecting. Right. So I can see the filter basket on that one, so I was expecting it to look really bad, but it doesn't look too bad really, that filter. But it's not working, so I'm going to have to see if we can fix this. Right, so what I've tried to do is make it easy for myself next time. So I've took the throttle bodies off. So that basically you're going to have to do that anyway to change the injectors or clean the injectors. So might as well take the whole lot as this, rather than take it all apart, take these off, come back and then try and do it all back here. I can put them together and I'm pretty sure that they'll go on, you know, feed them in, up, bolt them to the head. So, and then just the throttle cables might be a little bit of a pain, but I think that'll work out better. So as I mentioned, I do separate with two of these long bolts. So the two bolts that come in from the side hold them together. Another thing, when I took that injector off, the O-ring split, and that's why it was leaking fuel everywhere. So the O-ring for the fuel rail, probably going to change that one as well. The only way to get the injectors out really is to disconnect both sides, so I'm going to have to get new O-rings for those two. I'm going to need to replace the O-ring for the end of the injector as well. So at the moment I'm just sort of bagging everything up into a box so that I can go home. I would have liked to have swapped the injectors over, you know, put the left one on the right and then try to get it started on the right side just to confirm that this side's alright. But when I noticed the O-ring was split, I thought there's not much chance of that happening. I also took the wiring harness off for the fuel injectors, so they can all get put back on, the covers can be put on, everything can be put back on together, and then next time round, which will be the third visit, I will attempt to service it, because I still haven't changed the oil yet. And it's just bizarre how the O2 sensor is a problem, but part of me thinks that maybe if you look at the colour of that header pipe, maybe they've not been running very well, you know what I mean, like they've been running poorly because of the poor fuel. They've been partially blocked, and then gradually over the years they've just gotten worse and worse, and that's damaged the O2 sensor. Not sure really. What I am going to do though, I'm going to pull the spark plugs out. We're going to do a quick test on them because they'll be very easy to do while everything's apart. So that's the right side plug, that's the left. So that one has definitely been running a fair bit longer. So I'm going to... The other thing I should have mentioned earlier is that it's got a single coil for this engine. So when you've got like a one cylinder misfire or dead cylinder, it's very rare to have an ignition fault on this sort of setup. So like if one side's firing and one's not, it's very rare for them to do that with a faulty spark plug. Not always, but you know, because they both use the same, basically each plug is like the end of the wire basically, so if one of them's not firing properly or not at all, then it's going to cause the other one to misfire and misbehave as well. So because it was ticking over relatively alright on one cylinder, so I think if it was a bad spark plug, it probably would have struggled a bit more. But anyway, I'm going to get the HT lead over and just have a quick look at them basically. And these aren't anything special, so I'll probably have a set of these in the van so I can put some in next time. I disconnected the coil when I was messing on earlier as well. I don't know if I said, because there's a lot of petrol and you don't want a spark obviously. So no fuel tank to worry about. A couple of relays clicking. Right, so just going to turn my flash off. So they're both firing and it doesn't appear that there's anything wrong with them, so I think we're fine. We're not going down the wrong sort of road, if you know what I mean. So if this was faulty, then obviously we've checked the injector, so we know that's faulty as well. So right, so I'll just summarise what we've done. There's definitely a fault with one of the injectors. and we know now that the ignition isn't a problem either. So next time, if I've got some good working injectors, which I've got a test rig that someone made for me, hi David, so we can set it up in that possibly and see how they run. They need a good cleaning as well, so that might be worth a video, because I have got all the stuff to do these injectors, but it's very rare to actually get your hands on a set that don't actually work. So, but this is a 10-year-old bike that has got 0 miles on it, so what can you expect?